Hello, my fellow adventurers. So this is going to be a special video. It's one of the videos I've made I've made other videos like this. I title it as Let's Talk because this is just me basically saying my opinion and why I think this way, a calm, respectable manner. And in the end, it's just my opinion. So that way, people hopefully see this and don't and at least listen to my point of view and give me some of their own opinions. Like get like a discussion. You know what I mean? And it also, at least in a way, hopefully make it so people understand just from the get-go that I'm not trying to make any of these videos about throwing hate or per se, or hate or make drama or anything. It's just me as one guy giving my opinion, and other people can voice their opinions too. But it is fair to let people know that all hate comments, and I don't mean like people disagreeing strongly. I'm talking about legitimate hate comments will actually be ignored, and even if it's to the severe point, will be blocked. So I just felt like as though I should get that out of the way and let people know. Alright, so here's a talk about how I think that at this moment, why RuneScape is the better MMO or online game in general comparison to World of Warcraft or Elder Scrolls Online. Now, I'm going to start off at the top of the list as to why I think World of Warcraft is worse comparison to all to the other games. Let's do that now, shall we? World of Warcraft. Now, keep in mind, World of Warcraft has been around for quite some time. It's currently owned by Blizzard. It's owned by a company called Blizzard, which they have made many games. Other games such as Diablo 3, StarCraft 2, Hearthstone, Heroes of the Storm, Overwatch, StarCraft, and they're even partnered to Activision. Now, I've always been kind of skeptical. I've always not liked Activision with their business practices and as the whole. But I became skeptical of the fact that Blizzard has partnered up with Activision. But I'm not really going to talk about Blizzard or Activision other than the fact that I'm skeptical of what their intentions are. Now, understand that one of the main reasons why I don't nearly play World of Warcraft or even plan on buying it, because at this moment, the game, let's see, let me show you. At this moment, the game World of Warcraft, let it load for a sec. I'm not looking for subscription. Thank you. At the moment, World of Warcraft, the Battle for Azeroth update, which is the only game apparently I could get, currently costs $60. $60 to buy a game, and then you will have to pay a subscription. I know this for a fact. You will actually have to pay an in-game subscription to be able to access the game where it actually becomes fun. Because I have a lot of friends who played this game before, and they say that most of the entertainment factor of World of Warcraft comes not from early game. If anything, they see early game as an annoying grind. And that's saying something, since a lot of my friends enjoy a lot of the other MMOs' early grind. They have told me on multiple occasions that the early grind of World of Warcraft is tedious, overly annoying, and quite frankly not as fun, and they quite frankly get headaches. If you do not buy their game, you'll have a system called the Starter Edition. The Starter Edition is an edition where you don't have to pay anything, but you'll only be able to stay in certain areas of the game, and you'll only be able to be at level 20. until you pay their subscription and buy the game. Their subscription currently runs at $15 an hour, or $15 a month. I'm sorry about that. And so with $60, they expect me as an individual who doesn't really see the interest of, or doesn't, who has not seen the fact that their starter edition doesn't see the entertaining part. Like, the entertaining part is, like, their starter edition only shows apparently the most tedious and more monotonous parts of the game. Now keep in mind, this is just what my friends told me, and I played a little bit of the starter edition myself. I didn't enjoy playing the starter edition, and for most of the time I thought the interface was clunky, and I got multiple occasions headaches from how clunky the interface was. And I don't know if it's my OCD, if it's part of my, if I have OCD or something, or just the fact that it just infuriates me. But the fact, and also the fact that the tutorial doesn't feel as though there's a good enough tutorial, other than the fact on YouTube, it definitely, their tutorials on how to do this are better than the actual game itself. Are better on how, they better explain how to do this better than the actual game itself. Which is why I don't see the overall, which is another thing that really cuts me off. And considering the fact that a lot of people most likely don't have the kind of funding to be able to buy a $60 game and then pay subscription to be able to enjoy a game fully, I don't see how people can, I don't see why a lot of new players would be interested, because from the way I see it, I just don't have confidence that I'm able to buy a game like this and feel as though I'm getting my money's worth. Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying that this game is awful and people should stop playing it. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that it doesn't feel new user friendly. It doesn't feel as though it's very friendly towards new players. With the steep price that it asks for, to actually be able to play the game to the point where it, quote, gets fun, unquote. So that's all I'm saying. Now, but on my personal list, I would rank World of Warcraft as the worst among Elder Scrolls Online and RuneScape. But with this out of the mind, let's go on to the next on the list. Elder Scrolls Online. Now, keep in mind, when Elder Scrolls Online first released, it had a rocky start. The game was very limited on what you could do other than to go fight stuff. But ever since then, the game itself has been, I have enjoyed it, I've had fun with it, and I think the business practices this game has is better than anything else. Now keep in mind, it does expect you to pay $60 for their game, like World of Warcraft. However, the difference is, the only difference is that it doesn't force you to pay a subscription, because you can basically access most of the content. You basically can access a good chunk of the content without feeling strangled to death from lack of content. Without being strangled to feel the need to pay. If anything, the membership for, it's called E.S.O Plus, it's also $15 a month, but the difference is that it's mostly that the only thing that E.S.O Plus does is gives you access to all the DLCs for free. Well, not really free, since you're paying a subscription to access them, between the difference of just straight up buying them. You also get points, or the virtual currency, which you can use to buy the DLC, or buy bonus pack or boosts to your character. And these points you gain through a month, and it increases over time. ESO Plus in itself also gives a small buff. It gives a 10 plus to everything. Research time, XP, gold gained, and access to the crafting bag, which is basically an infinite storage of raw materials. Now keep in mind, this can be overly beneficial, but at least this way it doesn't force you to pay a subscription to actually play their game to a point where it gets fun. I was I haven't paid for E.S.O for quite some time, and I still enjoy playing it, even though I had to. And you get plenty of bag and bank space where if you were to play it smartly, even you could easily access and gain enough materials to be able to fund your character. Now, do I say that this now? Once again, I feel as though I must point out that I'm not saying that Elder Scrolls Online is the worst game ever and people should stop playing it. Like I said, like the same, and this is the same discretion that I made for World of Warcraft. I'm not saying that this is the case that people should do that at all. I'm just giving you my opinion as to why I think Elder Scrolls Online is worse than RuneScape. And also to keep in mind, however, there are positive features, more positive features about Elder Scrolls Online, is that there is great diversity of characters, great diversity of gameplay, and there is a huge community which a lot of people enjoy. And it certainly seems a lot of people seem to be very open to discussion and even open to grouping up to play. And one of the main features I really enjoyed just generally playing the game with other people. The quests never really felt linear comparison to World of Warcraft, because a lot of the quests in World of Warcraft, from my experiences and a lot of my friends' experiences in the beginning part, I've been told are very linear and mostly just go kill this or go fetch this quest, which I don't really feel is a great way to sell people off on buying your game. Or RuneScape, or not RuneScape, Elder Scrolls Online though, no, I didn't really feel many of the quests were linear or whatnot, because they always had an interesting take on. Even the more linear quests didn't even seem linear at all, because they had a more intricate or interesting take on it. And the reason why I actually bought subscription before is mainly because the benefits of what I could do, and the fact that it's the Elder Scrolls. It's an MMO based on the Elder Scrolls, and I have more familiarity with the Elder Scrolls, and the fact that I'm more confident in putting money into the Elder Scrolls games. Now let's talk about the main game that I've been wanting to talk about, or been meaning to talk about, and why I think it's the best game. So, over the years, before RS3 became or RuneScape became as it is now, there was an older version of RuneScape, such as this. This is how old school RuneScape used to be, or how RuneScape used to be before evolution of combat, and this became this. Now the combat, a lot of people enjoyed our old school RuneScape, mainly because of the fact that you can. I personally feel as though the reason why a lot of the people didn't like Elder Scroll or the evolution of combat wasn't just because that Jagex didn't implement it correctly, but also because they were upset because they technically could not AFK combat. But that's just the way I see it. Now, a lot of people, even now, have been saying that RuneScape is dying, RuneScape is losing more and more players, but I don't see that at all. And a lot of people have been complaining about the player count and saying that RuneScape's player count is combined of both games. When I have played RS3 and old school RuneScape both quite a lot over the years, and I haven't noticed that at all. It definitely feels as though when I was playing RuneScape, there were whenever I would turn, there would be players actively doing something, actively engaging. Some of them may not be actively engaging in the community, but actively engaging in the game world. Now, keep in mind, I don't particularly favor one version of RuneScape over the other, but I enjoy both games just from the fact that I generally enjoy playing both versions for their own strengths and weaknesses. For example, I'm going to be perfectly honest though. Old school RuneScape. I enjoyed the game. I've played the game for years. Ever since Classic. I've played the game ever since 2000, I think? I've started playing RuneScape for like years and years, and I've enjoyed it. However, the one thing that I wouldn't really say I enjoyed as much as RS3 was the combat. In old school RuneScape, I felt as though the combat was stagnant and slow, and if anything, quite boring, and overly tedious training my combat from the beginning, because I didn't feel as though, because the way I see combat, I feel as though combat should feel engaging, should feel like it should feel satisfying. Now, I'm not saying that old school RuneScape's combat system is completely awful. I just don't enjoy it as much as RS3. RS3, I actually feel as though I'm doing damage. I actually feel as though I'm striking my opponents down. And that's the strength of RS3 in comparison to old school. That's just what I generally enjoy. And RuneScape generally has, and the company Jagex have their own YouTube channel. I'm not saying that you should subscribe to them or anything if you don't want to. You can turn now. They do a lot of the reason why a lot of players left is because of the evolution of combat. The fact that it wasn't implemented well, and the fact that it was such a drastic change where a lot of people felt upset and betrayed. But it definitely feels as though people are coming back and people are playing the game more. Because with RuneScape, what they're doing now comparison to back then, I felt the biggest problem they had back then is because they didn't really know per se what they were doing. Now, I'm not trying to throw shade at Jagex or anything. It just felt that was the case. And it certainly felt as though they weren't communicating enough with the community, which is why what happened to the fact they released updates and the fact there was so much backlash. Now, keep in mind, RuneScape is an MMO like WoW and E.S.O, where eventually to keep the game alive, it has to get changed. It has to be changed. Things have to change. Doesn't mean it has to be a bad change, because change can be good or bad depending on how it's done. And in the past, a lot of the changes that Jagex has made, haven't really been done well. Which is why now the fact that they're connecting and interacting with their players and their community more, I feel as though they're in a better state in comparison to World of Warcraft or E.S.O. Because let's go into the actual costs of RuneScape. So you start out making your account, your character, and you don't have to pay anything. You don't have to pay anything to just play. Because RuneScape for most is that it's a free-to-play game. However, you'll be able to max out pretty much all of the free-to-play skills except for the member skills, and you won't be able to do all of the quests, but you will be able to do things like PvE, PvP, and do many of the things that a lot of other players can without paying a single dime. However, to get the whole content, you will have to subscribe. You will have to become a member. And the fact that you get RS3, which is a couple of years worth of content, and even more with the more updates they push out, and old school RuneScape, which is also a couple years of content, and even more with the more updates they push out. For a really low cost. It's actually low. If actually thinking back on it, it's actually less comparison to World of Warcraft or Elder Scrolls Online. Because World of Warcraft, you're expected to pay $60 for their game now, plus be subscribed and pay for their DLCs. While it's the same for Elder Scrolls Online, except you don't have to pay for their membership, but you still will have to pay for their DLCs to be able to get their content. RuneScape gives all of their content, all of the content coming up, for you don't have to buy any of their excess content. The Elite Dungeons Dragonkin Laboratory, you don't have to pay for it. Master Skill Cape perks, you don't have to pay for it. You'll have to probably be a member, but that's a relatively low cost. So that way you only have to pay that one cost and never have to pay extra. Which is where I think makes RuneScape better than both games in terms of the sheer price. Now, I also think that RuneScape is... Now, keep in mind, RuneScape has made their mistakes in the past. They haven't really communicated with their players as much as I would have liked in the past. But I feel as though what makes them, RuneScape and Jagex, better is the fact that they're learning from their mistakes and they're listening to player feedback, and not like EA listening where the words are empty. They're generally trying to make a conscious effort to do better. They're consciously trying to make an effort to make the game that the players want to enjoy. Which is why I love this. Which is why I enjoy playing RuneScape. Now keep in mind, I haven't actively played RuneScape in a while. I have logged in to check on, see what any new things happening, but I haven't really actively played it for more than a few hours. Mainly because I'm kind of waiting for the mining and smithing rework to be able to enjoy this game. Oh, and I just realized my voice probably sounds a little cracky. Sorry about that. Now, and they do community live streams where they answer player feedback or player criticism. They do that stuff, which is why I love this game so much. Is because at the beginning they had a rocky start. It was enjoyed for a certain point. People left when they started making more and more mistakes and haven't properly communicated. And by all intents and purposes, that's fine. It's understandable. But unlike many other companies and many other MMOs, I definitely feel as though they're generally making a conscious effort to do better, which is saying a lot. And the fact that, and the way I see it, with the fact that they're consciously doing an effort to do better, and the fact that they're listening to player feedback for updates, and by the way, the mining and smithing rework I talked about, they actually have done betas for it so players can try it out and see how they feel about it. Not many other company, I didn't see any other MMOs or companies that really do that. Certainly not EA. And they adjusted the plans for and they adjusted their plans via feedback. And the way I see is that RuneScape is probably in its best state in terms of business, in terms of new player and player feedback and just overall player engagement, the best state is it in now, because the players are actually a part of the way the game shapes. And I feel as though the game is better because... Sorry about that. I had to shut up my phone for a sec. The reason why I think the game is better, just in general, is because of the fact that they learn from their mistakes. They understand that people didn't like what they were doing, so they're trying to make it. So they're trying to do better. And not many companies do that. And I just realized I probably repeated myself about that like a couple of times, and I apologize for that. But now I'm not saying that everyone should be playing this game, because this game is not. I can honestly say this game would not be enjoyed by everyone. But the fact that we have the choice to choose which game we want to play with no extra cost, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good option. So that's all I'm saying, and that's basically just my opinion on how I see all these three MMOs. Now, I want to say this before because I feel as though it needs to be said multiple times so people don't, try to crucify me or hang me or anything like that, or give me death threats, because I've seen that a lot nowadays with other videos that talk about their opinions. But this is just, as it is, my opinion. Just my opinion that I base around logic, but just my opinion. Oh, and before I forget, there was another thing I want to talk about, is that that with a lot of the other games, the E.S.O and World of Warcraft, where I said their tutorials are not good, like they confuse me more than anything else. With RuneScape, both versions of RuneScape, their tutorials were simple to understand, and, well, I felt as though they described a whole lot better than the other games. But, now keep in mind, I don't inherently hate any of the MMOs I listed or talked about, because I don't hate World of Warcraft, and I don't hate E.S.O. I enjoyed those games I enjoyed E.S.O to a degree. I just didn't enjoy it as much as RuneScape. I didn't enjoy World of Warcraft as much as E.S.O. That's just my general consensus or my general thought on it. So this is the end of the Let's Talk video, and I appreciate you guys listening to the video and listening to my own opinions and whatnot. And I would love to hear yours. I would love to hear what you guys think about this, and if you agree, disagree. I'm sure we can all agree to disagree in a respectful manner, and that's what I would generally like. So, if you guys thought this video was entertaining and enjoyable, by all means, like, comment, subscribe if you wish. It really helps me a lot. And I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to this one goofball over here, rambling. So if you guys, enjoyed this, I wish you all enjoy, playing more games in the future. This is Galator from Galator's Gaming, signing off.